This video is recorded to help my students to understand the constant array parameter. Let us give an example. Suppose I want write a function. This function take an array as argument. Of course, I also have another argument is the array size. Then I want this function return the maximum value in this array. So, for example, this integer array as a max value. Then I have an integer array and an integer size. So when you write a function, you always have good habit like what is the precondition, right? What is the post condition? Okay. So for example, the precondition, you can say the size is the declared size of the array A, right? Then also the array has been initialized. Also all elements in A has been initialized. Okay. Then the post condition. The maximum value, the largest element value is returned. That means after you call this function, you will know what is the maximum value in this array. Notice that depending on your post condition, your function will be written differently. For this one, I want to return the largest element value. So if the largest value is 100, I return 100. If the largest value is 5,000, I return 5,000. But sometimes I don't want you return me the largest value. I just need you return me the index of that largest value. For example, if the fifth element, the element with index 5 has the largest value, then you just return me the 5. Because since you return me 5, then I will know how much is the largest value. I just simply use A5, right, to access that largest value. So that's why we say post condition of a function is very important, because that's determine how will you implement this function. Okay, so like if you want to return the index of the largest element, that's completely different story. But for this case, I just want to return the largest value in this array. Notice it's not the index of the largest value. Then, okay. Now, when you write this function, declare this function, then you will think, since this function only searches through this array to find the largest value, so this function should not change the any element's value inside of this array. Okay, because if you change it, then you actually change people's data, right? So I don't want people change it, because you only use my array. You're supposed to modify array. So in this case, one way to do is you put a constant modifier in front of this argument. So this constant indicates that to tell the people, use this, you can use my max value function without worry. I will not change your data. My function just simply searches through your data, find the largest value, tell you what it is, will not modify your data. So I put a constant here to tell the people use it without worry. And this constant will show people say, okay, how about you tell me it's constant, but you actually still change. Well, that's what happened, because once I put a constant here, when I do the implementation of this function, if I try to inside this function, I try to change this array's element value, then my function will not be able to pass the compiler. Okay, so that's what something will run. Now, in this case, let us do this. So I will implement this function. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention one thing. If you remember before, we have formal parameter, actual parameter, but when you pass an array, okay, when you pass an array to a function, then you actually pass the address of this array. Then the formal parameter and actual parameter refer to the same array. It's the same consecutive memory units. So if you change the value of this array element inside of this function, you actually change the actual parameter, which is the actual array. That's why you need to be very careful. If you don't want to change it, you put a constant here. Now let us do this function. Integer max value constant, integer a, integer size. Now how do you find the maximum value in this array? Well, the idea is very simple. We'll first assume the first element is the largest value. Okay, then I go through rest of the array. Okay, now go through, which means you use a loop. When you use a loop, if element value is larger than current largest value, then you update the largest value. And after you go through this loop, you return largest value. Okay, so now here is the result, which is the largest value. Assume at beginning equal A0. That means the first element is the largest value. Then I go through the rest of the element, integer I, index equal 1. Notice this time I don't start index equal 0 because the rest of the elements, right, in the array, I less than the size of this array, then I plus plus. This means you go through the rest of the array elements. Okay. Now, if you find the element is larger, so if AI is greater than the result, that means then you will update the largest value. So result will equal AI. You update it, then you return result. So the idea is very simple, right? So you say integer result equal the first element of the array. Then I go through the rest of the array. If every time I find a large value, which means the array element is larger than current result, current largest value, then I update the largest value to be this element. After I finish this loop, of course, my result will be the largest value in this array. Then I return the result. Okay, let us, every time you write a function, you can write some code to test this function. For example, if I say integer scores equal 90, 97, 100, 95, 92. I wish my students have all those scores. Okay. Now you declare array scores is this. Then I find the largest highest score. So I say cout the highest score is. Now I want to call this function. Notice every time you call the function, you just call the function name. Then you pass the argument. So the argument is scores, and this size is 5. Right? Notice that when I call this function, you just call the function's name. Then pass the argument it needs. Notice the formal parameter is scores. Actual parameter is a. Now that means the a and the scores refer to the same array. Notice the formal parameter and the actual parameter, they don't have to have the same name. They're completely different things, okay? But in this case, since you pass array equivalent, they refer to the same consecutive memory location. Then you pass the size because he requires the size. This size is the size of declared array, which is 5. You have 5 score. So you print out here. Then if you want it, you print out a new line. Okay? Okay. Now, let me pause the video, then share a different screen for you so I can run the you can see how I run the program recording. So we know we have 5 scores. right? The highest score is 100, which is the third score. Let us run the program, see if it print out the highest score is 100 or not. Yeah, the highest score is 100. That means our code is correct. Okay, so if you have any questions, please give me an email.